In the uncertain years following the Great War, Europe was a continent of ghosts and new beginnings. Fortunes were made and lost overnight. And in the glittering ballrooms and smoky lounges of high society, trust was a fragile commodity. It was in this world that a new kind of predator emerged, one who hunted not with a weapon, but with a smile. He was known by many names, but history would remember him as Victor Lustig. To the untrained eye, he was a count, a man of impeccable taste and quiet authority, fluent in 5 languages, at home in any capital city. He understood a simple, profound truth about human nature. People don't believe what is real, they believe what they are told is real, especially when it comes from a man who looks the part. His education was not in universities, but on the gilded express trains and opulent ocean liners that crisscrossed the continent. There, among the newly rich and the old aristocracy, he perfected his craft. The cons were small at first, elegant deceptions designed to part a wealthy traveler from their cash. A cleverly designed money-printing box that seemed to produce $100 bills, sold for a small fortune. A shared investment in a non-existent Broadway show. Each success was a lesson, sharpening his understanding of greed, ambition, and the desperate need to believe in something for nothing. He learned to read a person's soul in a glance, to spot the insecure, the greedy, and the vain. These were his true instruments. But the thrill of these minor victories began to fade. Lustig's ambition was a fire that required ever more fuel. He sought a masterpiece, a con that would echo through history. His gaze fell upon Paris, a city rebuilding itself, a city of bureaucracy and secrets. The French government was grappling with massive debts, and whispers of radical solutions were everywhere. It was in this atmosphere of post-war confusion and official secrecy that Lustig saw his canvas. He saw a city's most famous landmark, not as a monument of iron, but as a monument to human gullibility. An idea, audacious and breathtakingly simple, began to take shape. It was a scam so outrageous, so impossibly bold that it defied all logic. It would require more than just charm and a well-tailored suit. It would require the performance of a lifetime. Lustig began to prepare, gathering stationery, forging documents, and assuming an identity that would place him at the very heart of the French Republic. He was no longer just a con artist. He was about to become a ghost in the government machine, preparing to sell the impossible. With his plan set, Lustig moved with the precision of a master forger. He acquired authentic government stationery and created a new identity, Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. This fictional title gave him the authority he needed for what was to come. He sent official-looking letters to a select group of Paris's top scrap metal dealers, summoning them to a confidential meeting at the prestigious Hôtel de Crillon. The topic was a matter of state security. The dealers, intrigued and slightly intimidated, arrived to find Lustig in a lavish suite. He was calm, professional, and radiated power. He explained that the Eiffel Tower, built as a temporary structure, had become too expensive for the city to maintain. The government, he claimed, had made a secret decision. The tower was to be dismantled and sold for scrap. He swore them to absolute secrecy, framing the deal as a sensitive political issue. As he spoke, Lustig wasn't just selling a story. He was observing his audience. He watched their faces, their reactions, their greed. He was looking for his mark. And he found him. André Poisson, a man on the fringes of the Parisian business elite, desperate for the one big score that would secure his legacy. Lustig sensed his ambition and, more importantly, his insecurity. After the group meeting, Lustig arranged a private follow-up with Poisson. He confided that securing such a lucrative government contract was a competitive process, subtly hinting that a financial incentive, a bribe, could smooth the path. It was the final critical move. Poisson, blinded by the scale of the prize and eager to prove himself, agreed without hesitation. He handed over a briefcase filled with cash. Once the money was in his hands, Lustig did not wait. He took a train to Vienna the same day, briefcase in hand, vanishing from Paris before the ink was dry on the fraudulent contract. Days turned into weeks. André Poisson waited for official correspondence that never came. The truth slowly dawned on him. But what could he do? To report the crime would be to admit his own corruption and gullibility, making him a laughingstock in the very circles he so desperately wanted to join. He chose silence. His shame was Lustig's final shield. From a safe distance, Victor Lustig read the Paris newspapers, waiting for an outcry that never happened. He had not only sold the Eiffel Tower, but he had also gotten away with it. And in the mind of a man like Lustig, if something was possible once, it was possible again. Most criminals, having pulled off the con of a lifetime, would have vanished into obscurity, content with their fortune. But Victor Lustig was not most criminals. Buoyed by his success and the embarrassing silence of his victim, he returned to Paris a month later. In an act of pure audacity, he attempted to sell the Eiffel Tower a second time. He gathered a new group of scrap dealers, but this time his luck wavered. One of the dealers grew suspicious and alerted the police. Lustig, ever the escape artist, fled the country before he could be apprehended, solidifying his legend. His next stage was America, a land ripe with the excesses of the Roaring Twenties. Here he perfected his infamous Romanian box scam, a device he claimed could perfectly duplicate any currency. He sold these boxes for tens of thousands of dollars to greedy investors, always making a clean getaway before they discovered the machine only produced blank paper. But his most legendary American exploit involved a man whom no one dared to cross, the Chicago crime lord Al Capone. Lustig approached Capone not to steal, but to propose an investment. He convinced Capone to give him $50,000 for a scheme, promising to double it. Lustig then simply locked the money in a safe deposit box for 2 months. He returned to Capone, apologized profusely, and explained that the deal had fallen through. He handed back the full $50,000. Capone, who expected to be swindled by everyone, was so taken aback by Lustig's apparent honesty that he handed him $5,000 as a reward for his integrity. Lustig had conned America's most dangerous gangster by exploiting his trust, not his wallet. But as his reputation grew, so did the attention from law enforcement. The United States Secret Service, relentless in its pursuit of counterfeiters and con men, began to connect the dots. An agent named Peter Rubano made it his personal mission to bring down the elusive Count. The endless cycle of cons, escapes, and new identities began to take its toll. For the first time, Lustig's supreme confidence began to crack. The shadows were closing in, and the man who had effortlessly outsmarted the world could feel that his luck, like all finite things, was beginning to run out. The law was now a constant shadow, and Lustig's world was shrinking. His extravagant lifestyle required a steady flow of cash, pushing him towards his final fatal error, a large-scale counterfeiting operation. For a man who had built a career on selling illusions, creating fake money seemed a natural progression, but this was a different game. It lacked the artistry of the con. It was a brute force crime, and it put him in direct conflict with the most relentless branch of American law enforcement. The Secret Service, led by the tenacious agent Rubano, finally got the lead they needed. On May 10, 1935, they cornered Lustig in New York City. The chase was over, or so it seemed. Sentenced and imprisoned at the Federal House of Detention, Lustig orchestrated one last spectacular performance. The day before his trial, he staged a classic escape, creating a rope from torn bedsheets, climbing out the window and disappearing into the city below, feigning to wipe the building's windows on his way down to avoid suspicion from onlookers. The Count was free again, a living legend of audacity. But his freedom was short-lived. 27 days later, he was recaptured in Pittsburgh after a dramatic car chase. There would be no more escapes. This time, the authorities sent him to a place designed to hold the unholdable, Alcatraz. On the infamous rock, Lustig was no longer a count. He was prisoner door 300. The charm, the languages, the perfectly tailored suits, they were all useless. He was surrounded by America's most hardened criminals, a con man stripped of his stage and his audience. His health failed in the brutal prison environment. On March 9, 1947, Victor Lustig died of complications from pneumonia at the Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. His death certificate listed his occupation as apprentice salesman. The man who sold the Eiffel Tower, who conned Al Capone, and who mesmerized the elite of 2 continents, died a quiet, anonymous death. His life was a testament to a singular, audacious talent, a grand performance that in the end could not outrun reality.